2020 BMW IBSF Bobsleigh and Skeleton World Championships reached their conclusion here in Altenberg in Germany. To a full house, we have the final day's action from the four-man bobsleigh. 2 heats to decide the blue-ribboned event. Welcome back to our coverage from Altenberg, everybody. Martin Haven and John Morgan in the commentary booth, and around this track, everybody waiting to see who is going to come out on top of a titanic battle.
Well, Johannes Lochner, he won the event 2 years ago. He tied Francisco Friedrich to the 100th of a second. And the way this event's going, we could have that similar type ties on the podium. He's in a position not far off the top of the leaderboard. Kibermanis made a comeback from 5th. He jumped all the way to second in the second run, but his guy slipped there. They still had an awesome start time. What an athletic move for the guy to get back in the sled. And he flies down with the second best time of the run. He's in second place. And the surprise leader in the first day is Nico Walter. Walter had a horrific crash here in November. They thought it was career ending. Didn't slide for 6 weeks. And here he is on his home track. He's a Dresden boy, and he's got the lead. But boy, is there 2 heats to go. And Martin, can we get it any closer?
Well, after the first 2 heats, the first day of action, our top 5 sleds were covered by 900ths of a second, with the defending world champion and Olympic champion Francesco Friedrich tying with Justin Cripps, just as they did for 2-man gold in Pyeongchang, 900ths behind. But Cripps is now on a plane home to Canada. He is injured, and we understand he will not be here to contest the final day of action in the World Championships, which leaves us with 21 sleds, which means that Ryo Shinohara of Japan needs somehow to get ahead of Alexander Predikin and or Lamin Deen to make it into the 4th and final heat. And for Francesco Friedrich there, warming up in the car park at the top of the track, well, the second heat, like the first, was not perfect. And just occasionally, his brakemen say, he reminds us that he is human. Johannes Lochner lying in 3rd place, 600ths off the lead. And Nico Walter, winner here 2014-15 and 17-18. As John said, coming back from that big injury before Christmas, he is our race leader by 500ths from Oskars Kibermanis. Change in the Japanese lineup, by the way. That is the only other notification. Brakeman Keisuke Homa is out and Kenji Murakami joins the team. But everybody else, apart from Cripps' squad, are ready to go. So here's our start list. The leader goes first. Nico Walter will be off ahead of Oskars Kibermanis, Johannes Lochner, then Francesco Friedrich, Benny Maier, Dominic Dvorak. So basically everybody behind Cripps gets to move up one. And down at the tail of the field is cut to the fastest 20 sleds after the 3rd heat, which means that either the Russian sled of Alexander Predikin, or more likely perhaps the Japanese sled of Ryo Shinohara, our World Championship debutant, will not make the final run.
Well, 4 heats of 4 days of a golf tournament, they call the 3rd day the moving day. Here in bobsledding, there's 4 heats at the World Championships. The 3rd heat is the moving heat.
Getting day 2 of the 4-man bobsleigh World Championships underway in Altenberg in Germany. Martin Haven and John Morgan watching as our overnight leader, Nico Walter, on his home track, gets us underway with a 5:12 start.
That's their best start of the 3 heats. They give up a 10th or so at the start, but Nico Walter, the guy who came from Luge, Martin, he finished 2nd at the 2015 World Championships in Winterberg, his first ever Worlds. I think he's smelling that he doesn't want to feel 2nd again.
Yeah, he was beaten by Max Arndt by 200ths of a second in the final run to that gold medal, and he wants to hold this overnight lead, build it over Kibermanis, and critically over teammates Lochner and especially Friedrich.
We don't know how fast the track is. Wasn't real fast in this morning's team skeleton competition, and it's pretty warm.
It's a neat and tidy run from Nico Walter. The problem with soft ice is the sled is easy to control.
Way off. 50, well, no,
quicker than we were yesterday.
54.20.
And if the sled is easier to control, it means any mistakes are going to cost you twice as much.
53.44, 3700ths from the elusive track record that's been around since 2008.
And that's over 8/10 quicker than his first heat. So, yeah, no wonder he's feeling that. And that was a good-looking run. Here we go.
Little skid there, 6, 7, 8. And, you know, he was a little early on to 7, and then this is 9. Look at the runner tips. Hardly any steering, but he does have a drift, some contact. And when we say some contact, we're talking hundreds of seconds. But what we've seen here the last couple of days, hundreds of seconds is everything.
Yeah, the team skeleton race was won by 1/100th of a second. By the way, the difference between Usain Bolt and Justin Gatlin, first and second in the 100-meter final in Brazil in the Olympics, 900ths of a second. That covers 4 sleds here after a day's racing. Oskars Kibermanis, 500ths back. Fastest start of the competition, a 5:02 in heat 2. And again, they don't load.
They ran too far in that other heat and they slipped. This time they have the best velocity as expected because they're 900ths better than Nico Walter at the start. But Kibermanis made a couple mistakes in the first run, was 5th. Made a nice comeback in the second run when he posted the best time of the heat.
Super smooth run so far. Little skid there. He's 100th back. This could be very, very tight indeed. Having a little pinball wizard down the straight.
Second best speed.
But he's going to lose more time because of that error.
Yeah, he's already 800ths back. Losing more time back.
Another skid, 14 to 15. That will not help him. Yeah. He's clean. That's good. But still 1400ths back.
He's lost quite a bit of time. 500ths to 2000ths, 1500ths slower.
That's the loose run. You can't afford those mistakes.
He wasn't that good in the first run either when he had the 5th best time.
Yeah.
5th and 1st, and I don't think that's going to leave him in the podium position that he was overnight.
He's going to have to fight his way back into the medals, I think, isn't he? And what will be left of the track? It's warm, it's humid, it was drizzling at lunchtime.
This wasn't perfect. You saw that runner cave in on the exit of the curve. This is not. This is where he lost it all. That 10, 1500ths and that skid, and then into the Kreisel. Remember, he's skidding going into the Kreisel. Now watch Walter pull away. All things being equal, a little bit at the end. There's the speed difference right there.
Yeah. And once you lose the speed going in, the Kreisel, the centrifugal force, grinds the sled into the ice, drags more speed out of all the sleds. Johannes Lochner then, 2017, his home track in Koenigsee, he was the 4-man world champion, tied to the 100th of a second with Francesco Friedrich, and don't for 1 minute think we could not have double gold medalists again here. We've been so close in the men's skeleton, the women's skeleton, and the team race.
In smooth, look at number 2 guy, Wade, 5:07. That works, 5:07 in the first run, 5:09 in the second run. Now, he needs to perfect run. Don't let Walter get 1500ths ahead like the Latvians just did. He was 5. That's not a good sign.
He was 600ths back overnight, John. He's actually bringing the gap back from Nico Walter. That's a good exit off 9. Doesn't touch the wall. Here we go.
300ths best speed. He had the best speed in the first heat too. He was the leader.
Good height off the Kreisel. Little skid though into 11 and 12. Has to take a bit much at 12.
Steering there.
Going to haunt him all the way to the line.
100th. Now we deal with too close to call. The first one of the day.
Here we go at the line. He is 100th back.
Come on, they're going to torture us like this again.
Yep.
Oh.
Yes, yes, yes. That's astonishing. 53.39. That is almost 1 second quicker than his second heat yesterday, which was the quicker of the pair. And no, it wasn't actually. He was faster in the first heat, so.
Moving day, first in the first heat. He was 5th in the second run. Here, he's not going to have the fastest time of the run, but he will be in the top 3. Look at the speeds. Lochner had the speed before Martin, but he slowed down with a couple mistakes right here. Too late here. Then he has to really steer hard into 13, causing a skid. Now he's on the wrong side of the straightaway into the big pressure 13. Johannes.
Good run from Hansi Lochner, closest to within 100th of the leader. Now, no Justin Cripps, and that means next to the line will be Francesco Friedrich. Here he is, the reigning world champion, the reigning Olympic champion in 2 and 4, and he just destroyed the field in 2-man. This, though, could be a really critical run for him.
He's won 3 consecutive 4-man races when you deal with the Olympics and the World Championships.
5:02, fastest start of the competition today.
Big velocity, too, on the exit. This is where he made his mistake up top in the first run and the second run.
In their first start of the competition, they set a new start record, 5:01, beating a record that had stood here since 1996.
Well, he did show that he was human by making a few driving errors, and that's a big one.
Again, and this
Third
is
best
home
speed.
track.
Yeah, that speed.
700s in the lead, could be 500s back.
If not even, there's 5, good call. Still time on the bottom. You saw Lochner.
Still only third fastest.
3. This is going to be 3 sleds within a couple hundredths of each other.
Is he going to lead at the line? I think he is. It's Francesco Friedrich tied with Nico Volta.
We have 3 sleds going into the 4th run, separated by 100th. This is too much.
Okay, you're the history guy. We've had tied gold medals between 2 sleds. You know where I'm going now, don't you?
I'm trying to rack my brain. I don't think it's possible.
Ever has it happened? Could it happen here? What a sensational result that would be.
Listen, the 3 guys are such great athletes and sportsmen. I wouldn't mind if all 3 of them tied.
No, I don't think anybody
Look
would
at the
mind.
correction there. So he has not been perfect.
No.
In these 3 runs, he's made mistakes all over the track. He's got the best start. This skid here into 13.
And for the first time this year, he's driving FES 4-man sled, which Nico Volta has now gone back to after starting the year in a Stamfer 4-man. But he's got a whole season under his belt. He knows what this sled can do for him.
Still
Look at the wing.
Hey, it's moving day.
He loves this.
Has he positioned himself? Yes, he
loves
has.
this stuff. Now then, with Justin Cripps out, overnight 6th place man Benny Maier automatically could be looking at 5th. But with the mistake from Kibermanis,
he could jump.
Could he jump up maybe to 4th place? He was 3/10 off the lead. Kibermanis was 500ths off the lead.
9th in the first run, 3rd in the second run.
That's what he needs. He needs a top draw Benny Maier effort.
Gonna give up time at the start. 18:50.
Oh, look at that, fastest of the competition. They know what's on the line.
5th best velocity though, which Benny Maier, 25 years old. You go, oh, must be his 1st or 2nd World Championships. It's his 5th. Guys just started young.
Yep.
His brother competed yesterday in Skeleton.
4100s back from 30 at the start.
Well, these are perfect lines. Speed, 3rd best speed with a deficient start.
Bringing it back. Another of the Austrian-built Valna sleds.
3800s back.
Trying to close on Kibermanis, who's 2/10 off the lead.
Not going to catch him.
No, but if he gets to within a 10th, then all bets are off, and suddenly...
He's 2/10 out. He's 38 or 40 out probably total.
At the line, 37, 1700s in it. Kibermanis gave away 2/10 in 1 run. Benny Maier, that must be hope for him. 53.51 run. That is a second quicker than his first trip down the mountain.
Yeah, he got 800s back on Kibermanis. Benny had a bad first run. That was very good second run. Going to leave him in that 5 position. Here, pretty similar line that we saw to Lochner on the exit of 13.
And after a second...
Here, this is like boy, for the deficient start time, and it's not his home track, he did pretty well.
Second consecutive season where he's been less than fully fit. He is in 5th position as Nico Volta and Francesco Friedrich lead by 100th. So 5 sleds down, time to just cram some more beta blockers in, I think, as we get to Dominic Dvorak of the Czech Republic. He was our 7th place man overnight, 1300s behind Benny Maier, 1200s ahead of Yun Jong Won. So ideally, he'll ignore Won and focus on Maier ahead of him.
3 very big, fit men, all very athletic, like everybody in the top. Everybody here.
5:13, that's a good getaway. Gives him a couple of hundreds less to find, trying to catch Benny Maier. It's not about catching Nico Walter. Benny Maier is 3,700s back.
So he's 100th better than both runs yesterday when he had 5:14.
Ooh. Now he's gone out from 44 to 5,500s back, so he's not catching Benny Maier at the moment.
Well, we're only about 3 miles from the Czech border. About an hour, a little more than that, to Prague.
Look at the
guys
fans
are from.
jamming the track. Every inch of walkway, every spare centimetre of ground is packed with humanity.
10, 20 deep in places.
7,800s back, 6th position at the line. This will be for Dominic Dvorak, and that leaves the door open for our Olympic silver medalist in four-man Yoon Jong-won of Korea.
Okay, well, he's hanging around. Last year he was 21st in this event.
Yep.
So
did not have a good time at all in
that
Whistler.
super speedway up in Whistler. And, in the World Cup, he wasn't bad, 7th in World Cup, so he's pretty much where he was for this season.
And last World Cup race here, he was in 6th position as well against all the same drivers. There's nobody not here that was here then.
Yeah, he's a personal trainer, the driver, also a 10.900 meter guy. And the guy in the brakes is a physio. Look at the cohesion with the arms coming up. It's like ballet there. And here, you know, he's got a little variance. That's the uphill section he touches before 15. That's 100th in Martin. If we ever realize how important hundredths are, it's on a race day like today or yesterday or the day before.
Yeah.
What we've been seeing here in these races, it's...
Next up for Korea, Yoon Jong-won, the Olympic silver medalist from Pyeongchang, and won, 34 years old now, had one good run at the end of training, hasn't been able to replicate that really.
He was in 7th place at the World Championships in Whistler last year. Track he's always got a pretty good history on.
It's where they all started to learn to drive, isn't it? It's where the Korean program was based when these guys were all getting inducted.
Doesn't have his Olympic team with him. Says he's a couple kilos light of his Olympic weight from 2 years ago when he won the silver medal and established himself as a historical legend in the sport forever. Yeah, he's got some issues.
Yeah, we saw that in the first run as well.
Says he's going to gain the weight back, start training more seriously. Of course, it's that 4-year Olympic quadrennial from point A to point B. It's a long 4 years to get to the games.
Big flop there, and down towards the line, losing more ground, and he goes out to 1 second off the lead. He was 5,500s back in the first heat. He has lost 4,900s in the second. I beg your pardon, lost 1,400s.
53.93.
Yeah.
That's still a half second faster than he came down yesterday.
Yeah.
And he's in a tie with Michel Vogt from Switzerland, who's coming up next. I like Vogt's chances there. I don't think that was a great heat. You know, it's all about here, the exit at 9. Does he hit it perfectly? No, almost comes out too early. Look, he's steering really hard to come off there. The back end skid. Watch the runner tips. He's checking them. He's just flipping them back and forth to try and stay off that right wall on our side, his left. Doesn't have a perfect exit of 14 flops. You see him with the runner tips again, trying to get over onto the take on to 15.
One more to go for Yoon Jong-won, tied with Michael Vogt of Switzerland overnight. Vogt raced in the 2-man. So too did Simon Friedrich, not pushing a sled, driving the other Swiss 2-man sled.
Finished sixth, right?
6th and 7th they were, and as last year, Friedrich is back behind Vogt for the World Championships because he is Switzerland's best brakeman, as well as actually in the World Championships last weekend their best 2-man driver.
They got to get better than the 19th start in the second run they had. They have 19 again. They had a 15 in the first heat, and then they had a 19 in the second and third heats. You've seen most of the other teams go better. It's a softer track up there. Ooh, they tapped there. But for him, with the deficient start, now he needs the perfect drive.
Met him last year in the World Cup, didn't we, in his second ever season of driving, so it's only season 3 for Michael Vogt.
Swiss commentators in the next booth over are living and dying with this young athlete. Swiss won a silver medal yesterday in women's skeleton. Maria Gilardoni, former women's bobsledder, won their first medal in about 10 years in the sport for for Stulnev.
Oh, too many skids from Mihai Vogt. This isn't going to get it close to Yun Jong-won. He's going to lose maybe 2 tenths to the Korean driver. In fact, more than that.
Yeah, 54.19. Everybody's coming down faster. That was faster by 41/100ths, but not enough.
Skids.
Not enough to get to Won. He lost 26/100ths to Won.
Again, he started his career year 1 just driving 2-man, so last year really his first 4-man year, by which time, of course, Won was already the Olympic silver medalist.
There's 4.5. This is 9. This gets away from him. If you want to look at the aerodynamics back there, I see people bouncing around. We shouldn't see anybody, even with that turn like that. So they got to work a little bit more. Of course, Friedrich just entered his team, right? He wasn't with them for the last couple months.
No, his last 4-man race with Vogt was the World Championships last year. Nico Walter, Francesco Friedrich tied. They lead by 100th from Johannes Lochner. Great Britain's Brad Hall, first man out of the start shed in the first heat, with Taylor Lawrence, Luke Dawes and Greg Cackett behind him.
It says L. Taylor there. You're saying it's Taylor Lawrence?
Taylor Lawrence.
Well, Lawrence Taylor would catch our attention in the United States.
Yeah. He's a Royal Marine Commando, Taylor, and Luke Dawes from the Parachute Regiment. Greg Cackett's the regular 2-man brakeman for Brad Hall.
Brad's had a great breakout season in the 2-man. Won his first ever medal, and he's been top 5 a couple other times.
8th, 9th, 10th, 12th place finishes in his 4-man outings as well. Didn't go to North America, so he raced here in December in the Europa Cup event.
Tap between the 4 and 5. Finished 13th in Whistler last year on that super speedway in British Columbia. A little different personality than this track.
Yeah, he was 4th in the 2-man in Whistler and he 13th in the 4-man.
You know, this 3-year World Championship cycle, pretty exciting when you have Whistler followed by Altenberg, and then next year, 2021, World Championships in Lake Placid.
Good run for Brad Hall. He's picking up a spot. He's getting ahead of Mihai Vogt. He is
sixth best run. 53.83.
Sean Olsen on the left, liking that.
So he just came down 8 tenths better. 22 start.
Yep.
Their best start of the competition, so this young British team, you can tell, they're excited.
That's Luke Dawes, absolutely loving it.
Personal best, that's what you're out here trying to do. Personal bests. Tap there between 4 and 5 with, you know, a little bit different than the skeleton athletes coming through there, but these 4-mans, they have a mind of their own. Good aerodynamic profile, got a little skid. Not everybody's been clean down there at that straightaway. There's been a lot of issues.
Tap didn't throw him sideways, so that was a little bit of...
Let's go.
Yeah, one more to go.
Great season for that young guy.
Yep. Next up, Roman Heinrich of France. He was in 11th place overnight. Removed Justin Cripps, make that now 10th on the leaderboard, potentially.
From Grenoble, site of the 68 Olympic Games.
Yeah, based at the track at La Plagne, an engineer by trade. Bontaz, his sponsor and engineering firm, they're working on sled developments.
That's that big logo on the cowling.
Yeah. Now let's see what they can start. 5:22s in the first heat, 5:25.
Yeah, slower with a big skid there out of 1, and then he has to steer around 2. I never liked that.
Trained in Whistler, but did not race after they broke their sled. This is his 3rd World Championships, but his first as a driver, bumps onto 5.
10th place in the 2-man last weekend. He needed an 8th to satisfy the French Federation.
Well, his best results as a brakeman with Loic Kostek driving 21st in Winterberg, 24th in St. Moritz 2013, so he is way in excess of anything now that happened when he was a brakeman. And a top 10 run here. If he can hang on in the top 10, maybe close a little on Mihai Vogt to Switzerland.
He's saying he needs a top 12.
Well,
so this works, 54.61. And compared to yesterday's 54.61, yeah, he's way off of yesterday.
Just come down 8 tenths slower than the previous sled at Brad Hall.
Yeah, 54.55 yesterday. So, yeah, he's 8 tenths off of Hall. He was close to Brad Hall. So, how good was Brad Hall?
Well, Brad Hall's first run was 10th quickest. His second, though, was 16th only in a field of 22.
Sixth now, the sixth best time of this heat. So
that's how you turn it around, isn't it?
Well, you can also tell he's a new four-man driver. Oof. He's a little inconsistent. But Roman Heinrich might be some runner issues today.
No, hard hit there into 12, just dug into the corner. Well, the track is getting a little frosty. The refrigeration is on hard in the concrete channel. Nico Valtteri from Francesco Friedrich and Johannes Lochner, 3 sleds covered by 100th. Oskars Kibermanis slipping out of contention. Benny Maier up to 5th. Maxim Andrianov of Russia with our 11th sled in the race after the withdrawal of the injured Justin Cribbs. Andrianov started late in the list, 22nd of 22 sleds, had the worst track conditions in the first heat, but he still came down 14th fastest, 7th fastest sled in heat 2. He could be a man on the move.
19th at the start here, 17th, so there's their best start of the 3. Very experienced team here.
And as John, as the crew sits down, he's already jumped ahead of Roman Heinrich.
Yeah, and Heinrich didn't have a very good run. Heinrich could fight himself back a couple spots before we're all said and done here.
Well, he's need to recover in the final heat, Roman Heinrich, but he's losing ground to Maxim Andrianov.
And Andrianov, well, by the way, finished 4th at the World Championships in Wittenberg this year. Haven't seen him out on the World Cup Tour. It's like he was sort of semi-retired, but when the other Russian pilot got hurt in an accident here last week, here he is.
Yeah, Rostislav Gajtukovic made his 2-man debut. He's the junior 4-man world champion, so he should have been the 4th Russian sled in the field. That's why Andrianov is here. 54.29, and that pushes him ahead of the Frenchman Roman Heinrich by 3/10. He was only 200ths behind Heinrich.
1400ths better than his second heat yesterday.
Yeah.
So anybody that improves, but what Brad Hall do? I mean, Brad Hall lit it up. So now we're dealing with track that's a little scratched up. But again, there's, these guys that are back here from 10 to 20, they have their own sled versus sled battles, whether they want to become Russia #1 or have a certain placing that their federation demands on them. So Andrianov makes a big mistake there. And then this is the snake curve, 11-12. Not bad. He's still got a little skid, seems like everybody, but this is where this cost him 20-2500ths there. 10-1500ths up there in the 4-5 combo. He knows it.
Yeah, not happy with that, was he? Well, he moves up still into the top 10.
More Russians.
Yep, this is Alexey Stulnev, who's nominally Russia's #1, but Andrianov had a better day 1 with Alexei Zaitsev, Vasily Kondratenko and Ilya Marek. This is the #1 Russian push crew. Can they get down into the team?
Skid there. Yes. But they had a skid. That's why their speed's only 11th. Yeah. They had the 8th best start time, but the 11th best speed. That's because they got in and caused the sled to skid.
That's like having wheels spin off the line in a drag race.
Yes, absolutely. We like to say you get in with cat-like movements. They didn't get in like cats there.
Not as bad as the Latvians yesterday, where they almost left the line with just 3 guys. 11th place, so he's not closed yet on Roman Heinrich.
Well, very experienced pilot. Didn't see him last year.
Much better through 11 and 12 than Heinrich, so he's up to 8th fastest speed. I think he's going to get the Frenchman, and he's trying to overtake his teammate Maxim Andrianov as well.
He's going to get Heinrich free. He's going to get them both.
He might get Andrianov here. This is a good-looking run from Stulnev.
That's what we expect. 9th best time. He got them both.
2 to 10th.
So now it's the Russians' national championship. I mean, he wants to become Russia 1, and Andrianov made the mistakes in 4-5 down at 14. Stulnev did not.
Yeah, they have him back behind me.
Similar start times, 18 and 17.
Yeah, that's a good run from Stulnev. Really dug in there to find some clean lines.
He gets back to Russia. They're going to ask him how he did. He goes, I became Russia 1. There's the skid. Getting in out of the drive lines, and they got in with heavy feet. And, it doesn't matter what you're doing there. You race all sorts of time. If he didn't have that skid up there, Martin, he might have gone up.
Yeah, how far is he behind Mikhail Vogt? 1400s? Yeah,
that might have been 1400s.
That might
Look
have
at these lines.
3 people.
He taps a little bit right on the take on to 15.
Yeah, if he lost 3 or 400s in that skid, that would have been enough to get Vogt at the bottom. So Alexey Stulnev on the move up the order. Next up for Austria, Markus Treichl. Broken foot earlier in the season. Like Benny Maier, he had to sit in for a couple of races.
One of our couple athletes that are driving a sled that started in the sport of luge. Saw his parents here yesterday.
5:19, fastest start for those guys.
And his sister. And they're you know, the whole family, the grandparents, everybody's on the side of the sled with a name. So just great support from his home base. He lives about a half mile from the track in Eagles. 115 back. 12th, he's moved up one spot. He could catch Heinrich. Could have been a disastrous run for Roman Heinrich from France. 7th best speed.
Wow, here we go. Markus Treichl on the move. Does he get to Maxim Andrianov as well? Do you know he might? Still
That's
8th
nice
fastest.
lines there. Runner tips here.
He might move up as well.
Really nice.
He is ahead of Andrianov on the splits.
He could get 3 guys here.
Clean final corner, and he is in 11th.
9th best time. He picked up 2 guys. Hey, they like that, the old dog Austrian coaches that I keep calling them. Gerhard Rayner and
300s behind Stulnev. He was 1200s behind him at the beginning of the run, so he has not only jumped 2, but he's actually closed on Stulnev. 300ths of a second is the battle for a spot in the top 10 in the final heat.
Did not compete at the World Championships last year. Been sitting in the sled a couple times this year with a broken foot just to get the points. This wasn't perfect, but as he entered the Kreisel, he got it going straight. This is one of the better lines from 13 or 12 to 13 we've seen. Most people have been skidding. And look at the lines in the track, Martin.
Yep.
It's starting to frost up.
Yeah,
see the lines?
It's such a humid day. To keep the ice alive, they've got to keep the refrigeration on. There's Markus Treichl, up 2, and a chance to finish in the top 10. Patrick Baumgartner of Italy, 25 years old, Youth Olympic champion in the first Youth Olympic Games in 2012 in Innsbruck in Austria, driving a sled that was raced by Simone Bertazzo. It's an older Wallner sled, another of the Austrian-built sleds. Baumgartner 18th in Whistler last year. That was his 3rd World Championship. This is his 3rd World Championship, so he's already a whole host better than that. 5:27
gives
getaway.
up so much time at the start. Good driver. Hey, the Italians won a bronze medal this morning in the inaugural team skeleton competition. One guy, one lady from 9 countries. Somehow they won a bronze medal.
Yep.
That was like a miracle on ice, we called it this morning.
They were hanging out in the leader's box, having a lot of fun.
Ooh.
Oh,
look how straight he comes, though.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a good driver. If you give him a start time, I think you'd see this guy challenging for podiums.
It's kind of a younger mirror image of Simone Bertazzo.
Yeah,
good driver, hasn't got the starting speed.
Jinxed him.
Big skid there.
Back end come up, you see that? That's that skid and that you get all wound up into the curve.
Still gets ahead of Roman Heinrich, though.
Wow, Heinrich's like 4 spots.
Well, Heinrich started the day knocking on the door of the top 10, 300s out of the top 10.
200s
He's now
ahead.
down to 14th. He's last of the 14 sleds.
Hey, the Italian, this is his best performance.
Yep.
He's usually having all he can do to make the cut. He's up here, you know, 14th, 15th spot. Look at the crowd. The very sliding, educated crowd. This is curve 9 where it did not look good. Watch the sled split. Oh, not bad. Do you see the sled? The articulation of the sled didn't split that bad. He just doesn't steer, Martin.
Yeah.
Here he needed to do something because that was costly.
Yeah.
Look at the back end of the sled come up there, and that's, you know, he can get to that point where you can roll the whole sled into the curve. Former Alpine skier.
Oskars Melbardis of Latvia, recently awarded last week his 4-man Olympic gold medal from the Sochi Games 2014, reallocated after the event. And Melbardis with a huge mountain to climb in terms of pace, 17th only at the first heat.
Somebody just threw something in the track.
Yeah, that's one of those little clacker things that's broken.
5:12, 5:21.
Yeah.
That's a much better start. No, it's 22 and a 31 yesterday. So that's his best start. The second start, they're 900s back. That's pretty inconsistent from the guy who Olympic champion, world champion in 2015, He had a dominant period in the sport where he was never off the podium. Biggest man in the competition at the front seat.
Hasn't raced in the World Cup this year. He only started back on ice in October. He's been racing in the Europa Cup to get his grading back to race in the World Championships. 9th fastest run at the 9th fastest speed at the moment.
And everybody forgets, bronze medalist in the two-man competition in Korea 2 years ago. Then he ran into some injuries, trying to build himself back up. 54.41, 14th best time, 15th place. He's only a 10th back from the French, 1200ths back from the Italian. Still got a chance to get up there.
Yeah, needs to find one good run, doesn't he?
But he's just buying time. The Olympic gold medalist from 2014, Olympic bronze medal in 2018. And keeps it off the wall. Aerodynamic profile pretty good. Watch the back end here. Does he skid or go straight? The runner tips were really
and then it reverses,
Robin Hood, then it reversed, you know, so he lost a lot there.
And again, 14 to 15, the sled meandering away from him there.
It's okay, he's been there, he's been up on the top.
Nico Walter, the leader, tied with Francesco Friedrich, his hometown rival. 15 sleds down, 6 still to go in the third and penultimate heat of the Bobsleigh World Championships 2020. The four-man event with the USA's Hunter Church. His first season racing in Europe with Josh Williamson, Jimmy Reed and Chris Horn behind him. And it's been a real breakout season for Hunter. Like here, he's never seen any of the European tracks before, apart from one visit to St. Moritz a few years back. So it's a huge learning curve.
Chris Horn's parents, Kathy and Ken, they're here all the way from Pembroke, Massachusetts. They sent me a message, and their son, Chris Horn, is a decathlete, the perfect athlete for the sport. Second year in it, and they have a lot of high hopes on him.
16th place finish in his first World Championships in Whistler last year, and he is currently in 16th position overnight. So let's see if he can get to Oskars Melbardis of Latvia.
You know, they had no training on the final day. Oh, he over! No training the final day because the sled was broken. Now, just a little fraction late. Stay in the sled, guys.
Well, they'll be clinging onto the tiny little metal hooks that they hang onto in the floor of the sled. Nobody wants to come loose with all this weight of bobsleigh ploughing along past them. It'll come up just to our camera position.
Now it'll go back. Now these guys, don't get out, don't get out, stay in the sled. So they have come to the conclusion that allowing the sled to go back and forth, and they tell the athletes, having somebody catch it, they think causes more problems. You see the medical staff preparing, they know where the sled's going to stop. It's going to come back down again. And there's somebody getting out and trying to hold.
Chris Horn at the back, just trying to hold the sled to allow his teammates to get out. That's what he was trying to do when it came to a halt first.
Two guys.
So Jimmy Reed wriggling out. Josh Williamson will be pinned up behind the driver.
First crash in the four-man training all week or the race. Hunter Church and these three athletes have had a fantastic season. This isn't the way they wanted it to end.
Well, here is the Kreisel.
One more dip, he's got to come back up one more time, and he doesn't, and then he gets to this, no place to go.
And it's all the weight of the bodies in the sled that just roll it off the corner. And then through 11, often the sled comes back up here, but it just hit hard with the belly.
You know, again, the sled was broken during training on Wednesday. He had good training, top 4 or 5 training run, and they didn't come out for training on Thursday. They said the sled was broken. That was probably 2 more heats that Hunter needed.
Yep.
And
well, because last week for the 2-man, they were only training 2-man, and this week he only had 4 runs. That's the only 4 runs in his life down this track in training before the World Championship started. So, crash for Hunter Church and the crew. The medical staff are there. And they will be taking care of the guys, and then the track workers will get the sled down to the low point. They'll open a door in the side of the track and be able to take the sled out. So there'll be a brief track hold.
Tom Church is here too, Hunter's dad. Saw him the other night. Guy that my brother Sean used to slide with.
Well, nobody likes to see the crashes. It is part of the sport, and it just reminds you that how close to the limit these guys are racing.
Look at the crowd.
Yeah.
It's
a huge crowd.
Respectful.
Yeah. And they are just absolutely jam-packed everywhere around this track in this huge grandstand, all the way from the start to the finish. 1,450 meters of ice, and it is deep in humanity.
Well, they've had great success in this four-man sled all year, and them being back 15 to 16 the way they were after the first heat, I say that was a mechanical issue in the equipment. Yeah, should have been up in the top 10.
But again, with only 2 training days.
Yeah, 4 heats. You know. Well, he had training here last week.
Yeah. But I mean, his season, how good was his season? The World Cup champion was Francesco Friedrich, Johannes Lochner was 2nd, Justin Kripps 3rd, Oskars Kibermanis 4th. World Cup rookie Hunter Church was 5th out of all the sleds through the entire season of World Cup
and
four-man
his worst
races.
finish of the year was the Lake Placid #1 event.
That was his only time he was out of the top 10.
And they had a mishap at the start in the first heat, so I remember that. And
bronze medal in Innsbruck, Austria, the first US four-man medal since Stephen Holcomb took a bronze medal on that track as well 4 or 5 years earlier. And for Hunter to emulate his hero was a very emotional day for Hunter Church and the crew. And a great indication of a young man who learned his trade in North America, coming over and just slaying it here in Europe.
History of the U.S. on this track. Brian Scheimer in 1990 finished 7th in the two-man. Scheimer was in his early days of driving like a Hunter Church, and Scheimer had the 2nd best start time in the race. He was paired up with legendary Edwin Moses. Unbelievable. And then in the four-man, Scheimer had Edward Moses, Willie Gault, and Greg Harrell. And in the 4th run, they had the best start time. He finished 7th in the four-man also. And it was all Scheimer's real first year of driving four-man. That was a spectacular result, and that was a tough track then. And then in 2000, Scheimer and Todd Hayes both in the competition didn't medal. Didn't do bad. 2008 was a tough. I think Holcomb came out of nowhere to finish 5th in the four-man. And here we are 10 years, 12 years later. Yeah. No American will finish, but Kaylee Humphrey started it off with a gold medal for the United States in the women's bob.
That seems like half a lifetime ago.
A long time ago.
So much drama to age us here in the last week or so. That was the first gold medal of the championships, the women's bobsleigh. And Kaylee Humphreys.
Look at the crowd. Not just here. It's 10, 20 deep, the whole track. I walk down halfway point, and if you ever been to a hockey game at the Montreal Forum, you just sit there and are amazed at how much the 20,000 people that are there are so educated and knowledgeable about the sport of hockey. That's the same here. These people know their sliding sports, know it well. They have big screens in front of them. Here comes the Ice Meisters going out with a little slush. Take the grooves. This is on the exit of 15.
And the news is that Hunter Church and the crew are out of the sled down below us. They're just a little bit around the corner from our window, so you can see that all the guys are out. And the medical crew will take a look at them. It's the final day of the World Championships anyway, so unfortunately they won't get to go in the 4th and final run. Actually, another rule.
They did finish. Yeah. They did finish.
But only 20 sleds go through.
There you go.
But yes, okay, no, absolutely.
Well,
I stand corrected. There may be another crash.
Another crash.
Yep.
But I'm surprised. I'm still saying there's some equipment issues with that four-man, because for them not to train after getting, on Wednesday a good heat training, I think he was the 4th or 5th best time, 2nd run, and then all of a sudden his sleds broke, and they weren't here on Thursday training. There must have been something major wrong with that sled.
Just bumped into a policeman that you and I both know well earlier on when I was going to queue for a Bratwurst. Kathleen Martini is here with the Bundespolizei, manning their stand. Had a little bit of a a chat with her.
I saw 2 or 3 other former bobsledders in their yellow and blue police uniforms.
The few that I'll recognise from my 20 years don't pale into comparison with the guys that you know from all of your years watching and covering bobsled. There's been so many legends of German bobsledding here over the last 2 weeks.
Last night I was in glory with Meinhard Niemer and Bernhard Gemmershausen and Stefan Geisreiter and just the who's who of German bobsledding from the late 70s, early 80s that dominated, and it was a nice reception that they threw at the Ideal House.
Can I just tell you, everybody, John is having his worst bobsled weekend fortnight ever, because every night in his hotel he sits down and has a chat with Francesco Friedrich and the boys, talks bobsleigh, has a look at the sleds. I feel for you. I feel for you, John. You've been a real Trojan. You've powered on through.
Yeah.
Rainer, talk about living the dream.
Rainer Jacobus, the CEO of Ideal, what a great reception area he's put together over there, and it just has all the German teams coming in and out, and foreign teams, and great reception he threw for all the teams on Sunday night. But if you walk in those doors, you're going to be talking bobsled 24/7.
Miki Pakianu here, closest to the camera, Romanian skeleton slider, wasn't in the World Championship team for skeleton, but he did do training with the bobsled team. The reason is his dad is the coach, and one of their bobsled guys was trying desperately to recover from an injury, so he was already entered actually once earlier in the year to slide with Mihai Tentea's team after competing in the skeleton earlier that day, but in the end they had 2 guys go lame, and so they only had a 3-man crew anyway, even with Mickey thrown in, so that never quite came to pass, but I'm sure that would have been a first ever.
Look at the crowd. Yeah. I mean, this goes up. This is the whole length of the track.
Look, on the right-hand side there,
there's a waiting line for the
bratwurst stand.
That's the line for the bratwurst stand, and then there's the donuts up there.
And up there. It just keeps on going.
And there's hospitality behind us here. Just spectacular setting.
And the guys from Lake Placid are here as well, having a look around the venue.
Paul Wiley and John Napier.
John Napier, he's been here plenty of times. He said this is still his favorite bobsleigh track as a racer, but he said, I barely recognize it. You can barely see any of it because it's just heaving with people. So it's
and they're not people that are seeing bobsledding or bobsleigh for the first time. Yep. They're people that are very, very knowledgeable of the sport. There's so many local. Nico Walter's in the lead, Friedrich second. They're both from the same local bobsled club here. Yep. They're both from the Dresden area.
And you can see all the flags, the Walter fan club flags, the Friedrich fan club flags. Look for the blue and white checkers of Bavaria as well. That's the Lochner family in the middle.
There's the Walter.
And you can see the green and white of Saxony there.
There's all the hospitality up top.
Yeah. There's the Lochner family with the Bavarian flags. And just in front, got a great little social media clip. I'm not sure if it's been posted yet. One of our Finnish cameramen watching Hansi Lochner's mum exclusively during one of the heats yesterday, and every racing parent will know it. Burying her head in her hands all the way through the run. A little glimpse at the screen, I can't look, another little glimpse, can't still look, and then when he came across the line with a great run, she was just jubilant. But there's not a parent with a sporting kid who doesn't know that.
They're just about clearing, looks like the sleds out of the track.
Yeah. Well, the first job of the crew obviously is to attend to the athletes, and then they will make sure that they are comfortable and stable before they take them out of the sled, those that haven't clambered out themselves.
Kathy and Ken Horn are here, and I'm sure they're concerned, and same with Tom Church, is Hunter's dad. And that all we can do is sit and wait for the report, but there's still a track hold here.
Yeah, well, the medical crew have walked away with the athletes, so the sled has now been moved back down to the low point on the track. So the good news is that all the guys are out.
I didn't want to ask anybody about the sled, what they felt about it. It's like a jinx, but if you can't use your bobsled because it's broken, you have to do some serious surgery on it to get it ready.
Well, we had that, didn't we?
Now he doesn't have a time to figure out if it's working.
We had that in Sigulda last 2 weeks ago now in the 2-man race. Mikael Vogt crashed heavily in the first race, and Simon Friedrich rather, and they were welding the sled back together till midnight. He crashed out of what potentially was a bronze medal position. He was third after the first of the 2 heats, came out on the Sunday in the welded up sled and took a silver medal. So he did clearly whatever was broken in that sled, they managed to get fixed. But yeah, you're absolutely right. If there's damage from a crash, you're never quite sure how far it stretches.
Well, the track, that what Darlington is to NASCAR, this is to bobsledding. It's the track we call too tough to tame. But with mild conditions, the track is pretty tame because of the weather. But last week in the women's competition of the 2-man, we saw multiple crashes because it was cold and fast and quick. And you know, look at the steering. It's not, watch the little variance there. It's not the athlete who steers the most that wins. It's the athlete who steers the least.
Well, we always talk about the D-rings. Those are the metal handles running up and down are the bungee straps that sort of hold them in position when the athletes are getting in. And you're barely moving your knuckles past each other, almost from full steering to full steering.
This is that future star of Germany, Max Tillman.
Yeah, Max Tillman.
He's driving the sled, and watch the right. Look at the right hand. See, just a little bit, just a little bit. That's that 3 pressure points out of Kreisel. This is an 11-12 through, and now in the 13. Big pressure at 13 right here. Barely steering. 14, he's got to steer out of there to get off that curve straight away. Now into the big pressure curves under the finish. Left side, you can see him pulling out a little bit on the left side, and just a little pressure point, bang, little check. And through and down, it's easy to do. You want to get involved with the sport of bobsledding, just call up US Bobsled. I'm sure they'll find a way to get you down.
And sleds have pretty much always been steered in that way, like you would if you were a kid and you had a sled or a soapbox cart. There was a period in the 40s into the 50s where they tried to introduce steering wheels, but
no, they didn't introduce it. That's what the Americans had.
Yeah.
The North America, and in the 30s, most of the racing at the 32 games were steering wheel sleds. And it wasn't until, I think, until the late 30s that the Germans started and the Swiss started using ropes.
And then, because the tracks got icier and faster and you needed less steering, a steering wheel actually gave you too much steering. I was talking about that a little while ago to one of the bobsledders and saying, one of the old guys saying that there was just too much. And with the steering systems that they've got now, they've got, you know, very, very precise and fine steering.
The steering wheel problem is simple. You come out of Shady in Lake Placid, if you hit the boilerplate wall on the right and you got your hands on the steering wheel, you're going to turn it right.
Yeah.
You know, where the ropes hang there like that,
Yeah.
they hang, and there's a bungee cord that allows us, so if you hit the wall, it doesn't cost you to turn.
Yeah.
You know, so that the steering wheels went away because of hitting the wall. Because when the track started getting faster, and the other thing back in those old days, there was it wasn't ice in the straightaways. It was all full of snow, so you had to drive yourself through there. When they started removing it and making it all ice,
you needed the leverage the steering wheel gives you, whereas now, you need pinpoint precision.
You look at most of the people and the spectators, they're wearing hats. They're Walter hats, they're Lochner hats, they're Friedrich hats.
Particularly the rainbow stripe ones like you've got
on the right. The second guy on the right's got Bob Team Friedrich. He's got that one. That's
and the rainbow stripes, that's the current Friedrich colors as well. So you see a lot of those. They're on sale. They got a merchandise shop
Walter
here as
hat,
well.
Right?
Yeah.
Walter flag.
You know, and the two of them grew up on this track. They grew up at the same time, sliding together, racing each other all their lives.
Friedrich was the forerunner at 17 years old, 12 years ago. Walter was on the junior national team in luge and made the national team in luge for a few years before he crossed over to bobsled 5 years ago. They were doing sprint training, and they said, "You're too fast to be in luge." So they sent him to bobsled. Look where he is. He's the top of the leaderboard.
Okay, we are ready to get our 4-man bobsleigh world championships back underway here at Altenberg in Germany after a track hold for the crash of the USA's Hunter Church, Martin Haven and John Morgan, watching Mihai Tentea and the team from Romania. Now, they were in 18th place overnight. Justin Cripps has withdrawn, and there's been a crash for Hunter Church that's dropped him to the tail of the field. So effectively, Tentea is already up 2 spots from his overnight position. And look how he fared in the second heat, John. He was only just outside the top 10 times.
Well, we like him. He's probably the shortest driver. Him and the Japanese driver are the shortest two in the competition. Ooh, took way too much of curve 1. Got in there late. Any little back end on the curve 2, but we like him as a driver. 6th place in the 2-man after heat 1. That really caught our attention.
Yeah, he's got a lot of potential. He's done an awful lot of ice miles, not so many of them on TV because he hasn't done many World Cup races. Raced here in December 2019, that was the last Europa Cup race here. 16th best speed.
Still at the 17th spot, but he's going to pass Hunter Church for sure, right here.
So 15th best. What was the gap to here to Hunter Church? It was only 700ths of a second. There's no question if he doesn't crash it, he will get ahead. And across the line he comes. 16th.
He didn't move up really above anybody, but he is within, he's way off of Melbardis.
Yeah.
7, 8 tenths back.
Well, that was a bit of a so-so run. 54.98, he did 54.61 yesterday, but on faster ice.
How much did the track deteriorate in the last 20 minutes? That was a 20-minute delay.
Yeah, and it's warm and sunny here, so that has not helped them. But they didn't load cleanly then either.
Good technique. Here, exit into the snake, a little bit of a skid. How much does he take? Low on 11. And he comes up late until you saw the runners change direction there, but not the perfect entry into 13.
So many break into that skid, dropping into 13, don't they? Well, Mihai Tentea, watching the highlights, there he is.
What's he, 20?
21.
Okay.
Yeah, elderly now. Timo Röhner next up for Switzerland. Joel Fearon at 3, Olympic bronze medalist in 2014's games in Sochi with John Jackson's GB crew. Racing this season with Timo and Switzerland.
This is talked about it yesterday for his father, Marcel, silver medalist in Nagano at the Olympic Games in 4-man, and won the World Cup title in 2000, 2001, and when he came to the World Championships here in Altenberg, he was one of the favorites to win the competition. Crashed in the first heat down at curve 11-12.
Now, Mikkel Vogt and Seaman Friedrich drove in a 2-man competition here. Timo Röhner, though, did race in Whistler in 2-man last year, but not in 4-man. So this is his first 4-man World Championships appearance. 18th place on the split times. With the absent Justin Cripps now, does he too get ahead of Hunter Church? I think it's likely Hunter 6.5 seconds back as they slid upside down across the line. So Röhner should move up ahead here as well. And finish in 17th place at the line. His World Championship debut continues. Rattles the wall hard though, 55.01. 300 slower than Mihai Tentea of Romania.
Faster than a second heat yesterday. But the track, it's sunny, it's warmer. We're at the peak of the day for the temperature. Not optimum bobsled conditions. Francisco Friedrich said he wanted it as cold as it could possibly be cold because that brings more talent into the play.
Yeah. It's the equivalent of racing in the rain. I think the harder the ice is, the less grip there is, and the more his driving skill he thinks will play into his
Here you
hands.
got, you know, other than Hunter Church, everybody's got great control of the sled. I don't know how Hunter made that mistake. He looked pretty good through that Kreisel.
I wonder if there was a breakage.
Mechanical failure there.
Could be.
Because he's...
Well, next up for Great Britain, Lamin Deen, 20th after the first heat. So make that 18th as long as he gets down safely, with Ollie Butterworth joining Ben Simons and Tremaine Gilling back on the sled. Tremaine coming back in for the World Championships in place of Ryan Letts. The driver, Grenadier Guardsman, his day job guarding the Queen. And Parachute Regiment's Ollie Butterworth at 2.
Giving up a lot of time at the start. 26 and a 29, this time 21. Now, where'd that come from?
Well, maybe the sun on the start track is just slicking it up and allowing the sled to move more freely.
He could chase down the Swiss right there with that type of run, with that type of start. Lamin is, you know, again, we told the story yesterday, after 2 heats in the World Championships at 15, he was poised to win a bronze medal, if not a silver. Crashed out in the 38.
Oh,
and the
falls
38 he
off
crashed and lost what I thought would be a great medal opportunity for him.
Well, he was only 1300s behind Timo Röhner, but I think he's going to lose more ground now.
Yeah, he's still fighting the sled.
Yeah.
right here again.
Lamin Deen, Brad Hall, and Misha McNeil all funding their own programs, finding their own sponsors, paying their own athletes and travel and everything else. 18th at the line. Oh, the gap is still 1600s to Timo Rona. So he only lost 300s on that run. So it's still achievable, but he has to tidy things up in the fourth and final heat if he wants to move up the order. So it's been a long season, juggling their own travel, finance, and everything else.
9.
Yikes.
Little late, didn't steer, which is your instinct. Not to steer if you don't have to.
Had to haul it off. 11, 12.
Here's the bottom of 12. Now watch the skid he causes here. Yeah. Too low in the exit of 12, and that caused that. And then he's still trying to get control of the sled down in the exit of 14. So you make a mistake up at 11, Martin, you're still living with it down at 14.
Yep. 2 sleds to go in our 4-man World Championship. Alexander Predikin of Russia, the 21st sled overnight. Make that top 20 with the withdrawal of Canada's Justin Cripps, and potentially 19th place if he gets it down in one piece after the crash at the USA's Hunter Church.
Young driver, he's only like 21.
Predikin didn't start a World Cup race this season.
Start 5:20, 12th best start.
Only previous 4-man World Championship appearance was in Whistler last year. He finished in 12th place, so this is not keeping up that sort of potential.
Smooth through 4-5. Not everybody is.
And again, even the last time here he was in a World Cup race, which was last season, he finished in 9th place. So he is having a very off-form weekend. 19th speed out of 20 sleds, and the 20th, Hunter Church, was upside down at that stage.
Good exit into 12-13.
He was 4100ths behind Lamin Deen of Great Britain after 2 heats, and at the line he is in 19th place, so he moves ahead of Hunter Church. The gap has opened up.
Well, through and down, he'll get a 4th heat. You know, it's his first World Championship, correct?
Correct. Second. Yeah, went to Whistler as well. Had a couple of crashes in Whistler in training.
He finished 12th. I stand corrected. He finished 12th last year at Whistler on that super speedway they have up there. This gets off the curve, a couple taps, 3 taps. He's still trying to stay off the wall. 4 taps, 5 taps. Add it up.
It's not been a good weekend in 4-man for Alexander Predikin.
The top 3 sleds are separated by 100. How much hundredths do you think were there in those taps?
Yeah.
We forgot about that, Martin.
Yeah. No, not yet.
3 sleds are separated by 100.
We're keeping our powder dry for the end of Heat 4. And that ain't far away. Ryo Shinohara of Japan then, our final sled in Heat 3. With Yoshiki Kaneko, Yuma Takahashi, and a change of brakeman. Koseko Homa is out, and Kenji Murakami on the back handles.
He's small like Tentea, but he's a sprinter. You know, it's nice to see the Japanese in the program. Too much head movement going left to right, left to right, left to right. Someone's got to teach him how to better running technique of going straight ahead, forward.
Well, Shinohara only a 3rd-year driver. This is his end of his first World Cup season, and it's also his first World Championships appearance, the 26-year-old. 21st place on the split times at the moment, but he should overhaul Hunter Church if he keeps it on its runners. And that will guarantee him a 4th and final heat. The key area here, exiting the Kreisel, gets it down, straight down the tubes into 11 and 12.
Too much at 11, though.
Little drift into 13.
Yeah, he's going to make it. Yeah, he's hanging in there. He's had pretty safe runs in both the 2-man and the 4-man, Martin. And he's only been driving for a couple years. 55, 49. That's way better. That's 70 hundredths better than his second run yesterday.
They make it down. They know they are in the 4th and final heat. Hunter Church will not get to go with his crew. And so Ryo Shinohara completes our field for the fourth and final heat of the World Championships and the season.
Well, you see the start, you saw too much head movement. Look at the entry into the sled. They're not a cohesive team, and then 4 to 5. You know, again, look at the athletes. Look at the back end of the sled. You know how much energy that is to cost that sled to go up in the air like that? Here he gets out at 11, 12. Too high at 11, but so easy to sit here and critique that. Hey, 3 down, 1 to go.
One more for Ryo Shinohara and his crew. They have made it into the top 20, and that was their target. 4 heats in the 4-man race coming up.
Well,
so our leaders are both local boys. There is not even 100th of a second between Nico Walter and Francesco Friedrich.
Yeah, but watch out for the other guy. There's a third guy, 100th back. That's that Lochner from
100th. He's out of it.
He doesn't have a chance. Friedrich made some mistakes there down in the exit of 9 into Kreisel, but hung in there with some decent comeback speed in the bottom, and he's positioned now to capture his 4th straight World Championship.
And you know what? If any of the top 3 make a mistake, Kibermanis will be in there like a rat up a drain pipe. He's not out of the medals yet. Benny Maier in 5th ahead of Dominic Dvorak. Brad Hall up into 8th behind Yun Jong-won. And Mikhail Vogt, disappointing 3rd heat, dropped down to 9th as Alexey Stulnev moved up to 10th. Maxim Andrianov dropping to 12th. Roman Heinrich from 10th to 14th in the 3rd run.
Hunter Church will still get credit for finishing a World Championship. So.
He will indeed. So 21st place for him and his battered crew. Join them and us trackside to see the 4th, the final deciding heat of the 4-man Bobsleigh World Championships. We will be back at 14:30 local time, 13:30 Greenwich Mean Time. That is just over 20 minutes from now.